Welcome back to Cheche, live on Citizen TV. Governors would like IFMIS, the Integrated Finance Management Information System, suspended. They claim that its managers at the Treasury and some central bank officers are colluding with county officials to steal money from county government accounts. They say this explains the loss of public funds from counties. So today's guests are the chairman of the Commission for Revenue Allocation, Cheche, and Wajir County Governor Ahmed Abdullahi. He's the former chairman of the Finance Committee in the Council of Governors. And so let's dwell on IFMIS, because we've talked about it, but we haven't quite unpacked it. We know that IFMIS was introduced in 2003 and was scaled up in 2011 as part of the public finance management reforms. We know that it's supposed to, rationalize, protect and ensure that there's more efficiency in the use of public funds, and to ensure that at a glance you can tell, who, what, where funds are going, and all of that. So where is the problem, from your perspective as a governor?
All right. First of all, IFMIS, as you said, is instituted, owned, managed largely by the National Treasury, and the National Treasury is responsible for norms and standards on matters managing finances in the country. Policy matters generally are the preserve of the national government, and on that basis, counties were I don't want to say forced, but required to use IFMIS. And the idea of having one uniform management information system for all government accounting entities is noble. I don't see that as a problem really, because it standardizes training. It's troubleshooting is easier. Everyone is on the same platform. It's easier for the auditor to also work, because then the Auditor General does not have to understand 47 different accounting systems. And this is why, as an accountant, the bit of being a governor aside, I would not really want the issue of IFMIS politicized, because it's the current management information system that we have in use. But when problems occur, we should be able to call in experts, forensic auditors, to see where the weak links in the chain are. Could it be that this is a good system, but certain people, as I said, with privileged access at certain points are either resetting people's passwords or are creating new users without the knowledge of the counties? Because in Wajir County, for instance, we cannot add a user on IFMIS without the permission in writing of the IFMIS, what do you call it?
Because the cyber control is in Nairobi.
Yes, even the computers, the actual computers that have that IFMIS system are not computers you can go and purchase from any dealer. They have to be supplied by the National Treasury. So, and this is why I feel on the bit of IFMIS, we've really been unfair to the Kilifi governor, because it's him who reported this after finding out that there's money that has left his system. Yet, in other counties, we've dealt with it a bit more professionally, like is the case of Kitui County, which actually even lost more money through that, siphoning of money at CBK through IFMIS, because this really requires someone who is in IFMIS and someone at CBK, Internet Banking, to work together, with or without having accomplices at the county level. So if indeed it's true that people in either the finance department or the ICT department of a certain county, while working with people at IFMIS or CBK or wherever, why can't we do thorough investigations, get to know everyone who is involved, take them through due process, but also learn from that mistake and see how we can create more security checks and firewalls in the system. If we come to the conclusion that this system is not good, it's been tried and tested everywhere else and it has failed, and I've been reading a bit of that in the nation and in the media generally, where it's being criticized how it was a failure in Malawi and other places, then I think it's incumbent on the National Treasury to go back to the drawing board and see whether we need another system.
Accounting system.
But for now, it will not help to politicize, and this is where we're failing, because you'll find politicians, some of them very senior, standing at a podium and saying the governor has stolen money through IFMIS. The governor does not even have a password to the IFMIS. He doesn't have PINs. The working and structure of the treasury at the county is very much the same as it is at the national government. There's a CEC who is the equivalent of a minister. There's a chief officer. The average county has probably 30, 40 accountants doing different things. There are 9 steps before you can make a payment. So if the system is not working, let's fix the weaknesses rather than call each other names.
So what I think you need to get you support the IFMIS system.
Yes.
It looks like even the Auditor General is questioning it.
Well, from the CRA side, and I think everybody knows, the IFMIS system in itself is not bad. But there's a serious issues. Is one, the National Treasury is overprotective of IFMIS. They don't want somebody to question. Tomorrow we have something called IBEC, in the Governmental Budget and Economic Council. The issue of IFMIS will come up. And every governor, first of all, the people from IFMIS will say it's working perfect, no problem. Then the chair of this council, who is the deputy president, will ask the governors. To the last governor, they say they are so unhappy. Why? Even because in our commission, they shut off this IFMIS at will. If you want to make a payment, you are told IFMIS has been closed. I have money in the bank. I have Barclays Bank. If I go to ATM, it can't say it is closed. If it is not working, they send me a text message.
Apologize.
They apologize.
The system is down or whatever.
So the biggest problem we have is the National Treasury protecting this system. And tomorrow, we want to suggest that a committee of Council of Governors and IFMIS really sit. It's not the first time a decision has been made. Go and resolve the problem. So, and he said clearly, 90% of the stealing in IFMIS is an insider job. It doesn't matter how good the system is. If you've got a syndicate, they will steal. Secondly, the commercial banks. I hope the governor will really be very hard on them. They should be able to check. And if there's a large payment, again, my bank will ring or even send me a text message. A check of so much has been paid through your bank, your account. Why can't IFMIS send a text message to CEC Wajir saying so much has been paid? So the biggest problem in IFMIS is communication.
Communication and trust?
Between county government and the National Treasury. Because of this overprotection of IFMIS.
But isn't part of the problem also in the design of the system? Because IFMIS was designed for the national government. It you know, anticipated and addressed the needs of the government, the old dispensation. And now that we've gone into county government's devolution, it has not been adjusted to respond to our needs. And so even as you suggest a committee of the Council of Governors and the IFMIS controllers, that there needs to be some sort of needs analysis of county governments, which then, you know, creates, you know, perhaps a parallel IFMIS system, and then we integrate the two.
Absolutely.
So that we don't have these problems.
But you need people to sit and say, this is the problem. And even to say, if National Treasury say, we shut off the system when we have no money, the bank can say you've got a credit, but the chairman, please don't write a check. So IFMIS requires a committee, open-mindedness. We have got over 40-something banks in this country. They have got operating systems that work so smoothly. IFMIS, we have spent billions of shillings. The county governments are stakeholders. But tomorrow, if you have time to come to a meeting, the most emotive issue will be IFMIS. Suppliers have not been paid in the counties, partly because of IFMIS. A supplier is told, a governor says, I've got 2 billion in the bank, and I owe suppliers 1 billion. I can't pay. And at times they are right, at times they are wrong. So IFMIS has caused a lot of pain. Tomorrow's meeting, if you have time, come.
Chairman, IFMIS did not start yesterday. it costs the Kenyan taxpayer 11 billion shillings. Forgetting about the trainings and everything, human capacity empowerment. Why is the hue and cry now? If you say it's always been a thorn in the flesh, why hasn't the issue come up? Why now?
Remember what I said? Because county governments have come in and they have been told, and I agree with them, they should use IFMIS. But IFMIS should be a friendly system. Ask the governor here if he wants to pay his suppliers. At times, he's told IFMIS is down. It's not open. Your Excellency, please explain to them.
Yes.
In a simple manner,
the siphoning of monies through IFMIS aside, the IFMIS has downtime issues, and again, I think the troubleshooting. When something goes wrong, you've got to seek help from National Treasury. So those are part of the challenges, and it will be interesting to find out how much national government accounting entities will have lost through IFMIS, because I believe if it's possible for outsiders to collude with county officials or IFMIS officials or central bank internet banking officials to siphon money out of county government accounts, they can do the same
for the national account.
The national government.
They do not do it with national.
Let me finish. So probably why it's easier to point out the county government case, and in all these cases, by the way, it's the county governments that discovered and reported, probably because they're dealing with a much more smaller entity, they're dealing with much more smaller balances. Maybe they're making their banking reconciliations promptly, so we would also want to know, and maybe they're also open that they can report, yes, we've lost money through here and we want this investigated. Could it possibly be that there's a lot of other money is also being lost at other governmental entities, and then we deal with the problem? I think IFMIS has issues, yes, but I also believe that any system, however robust, that will have been adopted by all these entities, because the sheer volume of transactions, the sheer number of users, the sheer balances being transacted will have some challenges. What we need to do is to be upfront about these challenges and see whether they can be fixed. And I think the problem, as the chairman said, is Treasury, and in particular the team at IFMIS headquarters being overly protective of this system and pushing all the blame to the users. Yeah, and I think that's something.
Some of our viewers are responding. Just a minute. As an ordinary Kenyan, I've never had an opportunity to work with the government, but I know a thing or two about systems. IFMIS is the best thing that has happened to this country. Strengthen internal controls, mitigate risk, improve the system and processes, and specifically look into the people aspect. That's Rahab in Ruiru. IFMIS is a great idea. Our problem is the people we have entrusted with leadership, who have employed their friends with express permission to use their passwords to steal on their behalf. David in Kakamega. The audit queries in the Auditor General's outtray are subject to verification, not because of the IFMIS system. IFMIS is a computer-engineered system where all key documents are authorized by officers under obligation to their work. There is no problem with IFMIS as such, but the officers authenticating and authorizing vouchers are the first-class problem. I came from Javan in Cabernet. And finally, thieves and collusion by civil servants. IFMIS has an audit trail that cannot be broken. Therefore, if there's something wrong, address it. But there was one who was very clear. Big no, IFMIS is a system that is operated by humankind. So what you feed the system is what you will get as an outcome. Corruption is the order of the day. In fact, it's in our blood.
Now, I wanted to ask about central bank and the bank. Some politicians have blamed the central bank and the governor because when the money is paid, they don't do anything. And the banks also allowed money to pass through, and the governor is trying to defend himself. I said at one time they wrote to the treasury to ask things. What is the problem between the two? The banks, the IFMIS people, and the central bank.
Yeah, today my account has 600 shillings. Tomorrow it has 100 million.
Yeah.
And I am allowed to withdraw at will.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a spokesman of central bank, but the central bank has got a requirement that all commercial banks should look at accounts of customers. If a customer today has got 100,000 and tomorrow his bank's 100 million, immediately they should inform central bank, say, look, there is something here. But remember already, there's a collusion with the officials of commercial banks. So the senior people in the commercial banks should be asking, you know, if you see anything major. Obviously, if there's a ring inside the bank and they're coming to work at night, but I'm sure the government is going to come very hard on those banks, because if the banks are vigilant, even this corruption will come down.
I agree with that, really, because in the case of Kitui, this money that was recovered was actually being drawn after hours in some commercial banks, and it's a case where the county government and, you know, the National Treasury, the CID worked well to get to the bottom of what happened, and people are now in court. And probably this is what we need to do. You know, I think all the comments that most of the comments were fair, really, because yes, any system will have its weaknesses, but when things like this happen, as I said again, they will help us understand the system. If we are objective in dealing with them on a case-by-case basis, it will actually help us understand the system, get to know where the weaknesses are, get to know who's compromising it. And people also change systems. It's yes, a lot of money has gone into the system, but it has served us this many years. If indeed there are better systems and technology, and IT changes every other day, we should be open to all these issues, in my view. Yeah, and there's one comment that said audit queries have nothing to do with IFMIS. Yes, audit queries will be of all sorts. You know, procurement shenanigans, a lot of other issues. And there will be as many audit queries or audit reports as there are counties. Let's take that separately and deal with this issue of IFMIS, because we are continuing to use the system. We would want its integrity protected as much as possible. If we now say it's hopeless and, you know, any money in there is going to be lost, probably there are fraudsters out there now that we're encouraging to come and hack it, because we're all saying it's a kaput system. Let's get to know what its problem is. I read in one of the dailies, and I'm a very poor reader of the newspapers, I must confess, of a local IT firm that confessed to having hacked IFMIS. I know that you saw that, it was in the Standard a couple of days back, and added users. I think if I'm at IFMIS headquarters or at Treasury or at banking fraud, I would really want to talk to them to see how they're able to do it as part of the solution to all these things. But please, if there's a problem of IFMIS, let's deal with it. Let's not make it a problem of the governor.
Okay, but what does IFMIS have to do then with the other challenges we hear counties have? You know, single sourcing, which I believe you have been accused of in Wajir, the payment of ghost workers, the payment of monies without supporting documents, no contracts, no invoice trail, nothing. What is that intersection?
These are the things that I was calling preliminary findings, because that's the query, yes. But have you read our response of the same? You know, this is where now, you know, you could have a trail of 11 documents and 1 or 2 are missing. They are misfiled. You know, these are human beings working with thousands of transactions, and we support. I mean, we provide those supporting subsequently, and a lot of times, in most of the cases, the audit query is dropped. And you know, the audit query could be as simple as, you know, payroll details of a number of people missing in the system. When you're working with 3,500 people, and that's probably the smaller counties, some even have bigger than that. I would not want to imagine how many people Nairobi pays. You know, documentation issues like that could actually happen. And this is where we're now saying, can we then take those queries out, deal with the ones that we can answer? Some of them would be things that we didn't even know. The other day, and I must confess, I attended the first audit exit meeting for the 15-16 audit. A lot of the other times, I would just be told the auditors came, and you know, even before we know, they exited. And I'm fighting with my people, why wasn't there a formal exit meeting and all that? something like a market survey ought to be done before you purchase something. For us, we knew you tender, you get quotes, and you know, you go through the process. And the procurement law allows even direct sourcing where it's justified. So it's a question of, was the justification well documented? So I think I cannot attempt to answer all audit queries of all counties.
But in your case, you appeared before the Senate, and they recommended that you be prosecuted. Did they not?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all. Not at all.
What happened?
Not at all. We had a number of sittings, we had a number of sessions, and the final census report is not out, but we believe we answered those queries. And mostly, there were documentation. And some of the senators actually said, you know, we've been to Wajir and we've seen the good work you have done. But it's mostly documentation, and mostly in procurement and in the payment system. And this will be there in any system. I think in any...
But Governor, I think what we want to do in future really is to get the Auditor General to get those things cleared, because if you look at it now, Senate is spending so much time, excessive
following
up on things which the Governor has with his team, maybe 80% is cleared. That should be cleared before you arrive at the Senate. And what we really want is for you, Governor, to tell your colleagues, you see to the Auditor General, that we want to clear the bulk of the audit queries, so that the real reality of stealing or no value for money is put before Senate. As it is now, some of those senators, I must say, sadly, they have almost political interests. So they want the Governor to arrive, and then they humiliate them, so they almost fight, and the whole thing is lost woodwork. What we want is facts. What are the facts? And so it's important.
What are the facts according to you?
The facts according to me is that Auditor General, because he's overstretched, comes with a lot of incompleted, without answers. Remember, the Governor now says he sat. That must be the first time. Out of 47 governors, I would say perhaps not more than 5 would have actually sat with the auditors in the field before the report is released. And because this report is with so many simple queries which to be answered, like Nairobi, I come back again with 20 billion. Before 20 billion queries were second, I'm sure Governor Gidero is going to be summoned by the Senate very urgently. You have lost 20 billion. And then the whole country were suckers. So we must really get to clear these things before the Governor has someone.
Chairman, you're in charge of revenue allocation. In your opinion, could this be a manifestation of people's expectations that has been mismanaged? The lots and lots of noise on corruption, because people expected so much, they are not seeing it. Do countries have enough money, and do they get it on time?
First of all, when the money is stolen in the county, then the local thieves, you can see them. They are put up a big house, they wear these nice suits, they married a second wife. So we see the thieves. But in Nairobi, where I come from, Elgeyo Marakwet, Iten, I would never know that 700 million has been stolen in NYS. So the stealing in the counties is no worse than national government.
No worse.
No worse. In fact, I say it's even better, because I'm not condoning stealing. But when they steal in the county of Wajir, in all likelihood, they'll spend it in Wajir. We're not condoning stealing.
But if you steal at the national government, you spend it in Kenya?
No. Most of that money is sent to Bahamas. Most is wired outside Kenya.
You go and buy a house in Dubai.
In Dubai. So, seriously, let me tell you, when you go to counties and visit what has been done. Yesterday, I was in Dondora dam site, just to see, Gidero, where has you spent the money? I saw the number of lorries, the number of equipment. I went inside. I was taken to the city to see how clean it is. I went to the mortuary in Bagadi, new machines, incubators. If you go to a county like Wajir, and he will tell you, the number of boreholes he has sunk in 4 years are more than sunk by national government in 50 years. Yes. The boreholes. Ambulances you have been bought by the counties. If you put all of them together, they are more than bought by national government. Hospitals. I was in Moyale 2 weeks ago.
You're defending devolution.
Devolution is a runaway success.
So do they get enough funds, and do they get it on time?
They are not getting enough funds because funds are held the Ministry of Health, and at times they don't know what to do with it. They buy some containers and say this one is a mobile clinic for 10 million. We need to send more money to the counties. Let us separate corruption from devolution. Let us deal with corruption as corruption. But devolution is the best thing to happen to Kenya. I can say without any hesitation.
But corruption is the biggest threat to devolution, Kenyans say.
Corruption is the biggest threat to Kenya. It is not to devolution. We must fight corruption as corruption. But I can tell you, Adwak, without, I am one person who has gone to some, I've been to Dora Tamside, I've been to the mortuary of this Kakamega. I have been to every place. And in 4 years, with no hesitation, devolution is the best thing to happen to Kenya. But we must fight corruption. We must get maybe better quality of auditors. Your governor, you must get internal auditors. You must get internal auditors. But more money needs to be released.
Fair enough, but do they get it on time? Because I'm asking this because suppliers out there make a lot of noise that we do service, we are not paid. The national government says we have sent money.
Which was referenced, which was certainly referenced. And we know that at the beginning, county governments were complaining about not getting their monies on time, and we know that that's still the case. We're winding up now, actually. We're not going to take our second break. We have just 9 minutes. In terms of solutions, we've heard several. We've heard a committee of IFMIS and the Council of Governors sitting together to work out the challenges and to adapt IFMIS to county government. We've heard internal auditing. How soon can the Council of Governors make that a requirement in counties? We've heard, what was the third thing? I should have made a note of it.
The judicial process.
Judicial process, yes.
I'm saying as a country, let us go through the whole process in the right way, because if we really put in those who are corrupt, I'm not saying innocent people should be locked, but once a few people are locked, and if we can get 1 or 2 governors who are guilty, the better, because then the message will, governors are my friends, but if they have stolen, I'll be the one person to escort them to jail.
Okay.
Right. Chairman, thanks for all the good things you said about devolution, because when we say it ourselves, the narrative is another thief just, trying to get away, and even the media, when we report a good story, rarely does it make it to the headlines. Usually it will be dropped as a PR issue. But fact of the matter is that devolution is doing things. When we talk of the fact that we've been able to more than double our water sources, and the things we do in our hospitals and in our school system for ECD and all that, and the roads and everything. People on the ground are actually a lot more happier with county governments than they are with all these other accounting entities that have money. Now, on what we can do, I think there's a couple of fronts. Yes, there is need for county governments to strengthen capacity in procurement, in accounting, in monitoring and evaluation, which includes internal audit. A lot of them have set up basic internal audit departments, but we need the audit committees in place. It's one of the recommendations in my audit report that I'm taking seriously, that we need to have internal audit committees, probably strengthen that. But I think also we need to rope in the professional organizations so that we can have conversations around public sector audit in this country. And this is where people like ISPAC can come in. There are opportunities for training, there are opportunities for even peer review, because even the Auditor General.
So those are two things you said there, roping in the ISPAC and the peer reviews.
Yes.
But there's a sense, though, given the antagonistic relationship we see between the Council of Governors and the Senate, that you don't work very well. Right. So is there any way that we can, professionalize this relationship, for lack of a better term, in the interests of people in the counties, but also to stem corruption. Because as Mr. Cheche says,
yes,
a lot of the questions have to do with incomplete reports.
Right.
Right? But if we can fix that, what would that look like?
I think you brought one too many issues. You know, some issues are structural. In good faith, you know, we created so many structures. We have a Senate, we have a National Assembly, we have a county assembly. And
do they have to be at each other's throats?
Not really, but I think the rules of engagement need to be much more clearer. You know, because for us, from where I sit as a governor, I believe that we are unfairly being, first of all, subjected to a duplicity of oversight. Because if you look at Article 95 and 96 of the Constitution, even the whole question of whether governors should be appearing before the Senate to answer queries after their CECs have been before the county assemblies is something that's still unresolved, and it's a matter that's still going through the court process. But because the last court had said we must, we obliged. So, and then you have also members of parliament who come from our counties, now have a role at the national government in legislation and oversight at that level, but are interested to know what's going on in our counties, and probably want to be part of some of the decisions that we make at that level because it will affect them politically. And then you have all these MCS fighting for the space. I think these are structural issues. Can we all be mature in dealing with each other? Yes. Will it happen because of our politics? Maybe not. So we then need to separate what is pure politics, because if someone, in my mother tongue, there's a saying that if someone is interested in your wife, then it doesn't help that you offer them your daughter. It's a proverb, right? So if someone is interested in my position as governor, and he's senator, and he probably feels he has gone for the wrong position from the beginning, it doesn't help that I try to work with him. We've tried, and they will throw all sort of mark at you. They will call you names. They will incite people against you. They will have lobbies out there that are just, raising complaints about you.
This is what you're facing in Wajir, isn't it?
Yes, yes. This is politics, and it's happening. And then at some point you get to realize this is not for the faint-hearted. You've got to do what you've got to do and move forward, and leave it to the voter to decide at the end of the day.
So we're winding up now. Panelists, I'll come to you, because the question that we addressed ourselves to, particularly for our viewers, was corruption in the counties. Is IFMIS to blame?
No.
Okay, no?
No.
It's part of it.
It's part, yes, but IFMIS, corruption in IFMIS is national government, is horrible. But I don't think it's the system that is bad. It is the people.
It's actually the people to blame. It's not the system itself.
Right. My check is that if there are issues with IFMIS, as it will happen with any other system, let's isolate those, let's not politicize them, let's deal with them. As for other cases of corruption and audit queries, let's deal with each on its own merit. And please, let's also look at the good side of devolution. Let's not call all governors thieves, because you take out these 47, there will be another 47. Will we call all of them thieves?
Will we have a statement from the Council of Governors saying that you denounce corruption, and that any governor found to be corrupt should immediately step aside? Because the feeling is that you rally around each other, protect each other. Will we see that?
I think if there's a due process and someone is found culpable.
You've made that point. Now I'm asking you about the institution,
in our
the Council of Governors, all 47 of you.
In the current political dispensation that we're in, given, as I said, the structural issues, the rivalry between institutions, the extreme, should I say, I don't want to call it jealousy, but focus there is on the position of governor, it will not be fair to just say, because you have an audit query or you've been accused of this, step aside. I think due process has to be followed.
And I think this due process has been abused far too long. And what Mutegi said earlier, I use the money to derail the due process, and I never go in. Somehow the country has to find a way of handling suspects and teams.
But you see, we had the president saying that if any state officer is found to be corrupt, they must immediately step aside. And we found, even though some of those state officers still protest their innocence, okay, they did step aside. So why don't we have that level of accountability with the governors?
Precisely. Actually, as much as we blame the president for the ills in his government, some he's not directly involved, I don't see how we would absolve a governor from mistakes committed by staff in his county.
And which is why the question comes back to you and your fellow governors.
If you look at the role of the president as the CEO of the national government, the role of the governor as the CEO of the county in our constitution is a replica of the same. It's a replica. And we have institutions at national government that manage finances. We have departments. We have ministers and accounting officers. We have the same in the counties. So it is not fair to say that should there be a case of corruption in a county where you cannot implicate the governor directly, the governor takes responsibility and resigns. The governor will take political responsibility as much as the president will take political responsibility at the national level if we have to be true to our constitution. If there is individual criminality on the part of the governor and it's proved, then the governor has to take responsibility.
Mr. Cheche, you seem amused by that response.
No, I tend to agree with him because, as he says, if NYS 792 million has been lost and we want the ultimate person,
and counting.
NYS,
and counting, because we keep getting new figures.
Then the president step aside. He said rightly so. If a governor is accused of direct corruption, they should step aside. They don't even need to issue a statement. If our systems were working, that governor would be arrested automatically. But our systems are not working.
The governor is running a bureaucracy, just like the president is running a bureaucracy.
We were winding up and we've gone back into the conversation, but we will have to end our conversation on corruption in the counties there. Our thanks to today's guest, the chairman of the Commission for Revenue Allocation, Mika Cheche, and Wajir County Governor Ahmed Abdullahi, also for traveling all the way from Wajir to be with us this morning. Our thanks also to our panelists, Mutegi Njau and Charles Odhiambo. My name is Udwa Kamimo. Thank you for watching Cheche.